Christmas, 2007. A young 8-year-old receives a brand new DS among her Cabbage Patch Kids in a Santana Moss jersey. Fast forward 2 years on her 10th birthday, she receives a new DSi XL because her neighbor ripped her original DS in half. The following summer, she was subjected to the most enthralling video game ad she had ever seen for a little game called Dragon Quest IX: Sentinels of Starry Skies. A game that promised endless quests, customization, fun worlds, and oh my god, little 10-year-old me could not contain herself. Not to mention this little game was rated E10 and up, and well, the girl was freshly 10 and ratings were not holding her back anymore. Her parents did not know about her friend who let her play God of War on his PSP in summer camp, and that sweet taste of animated rated M for mature violence had her craving more. I love this game so much. I played it for hours on end and have so many fond and not at all fond memories of it. When I went into middle school, I, a conscientious, studious student, decided it would be best for my grades to give my DS and my beloved Dragon Quest to my cousin. I spent middle school missing that video game like a lost child. By high school, I was chomping at the bit for an experience like that and begged my parents for an Xbox One. Even after years of not playing it, this game had such a hold over me that the first game I bought was Dragon Age Inquisition. I knew the game wasn't related to Dragon Quest, but it had dragon in the name, and I thought that was a good omen. Given my obsession and encyclopedic knowledge of Dragon Age, though, I do not think my friends would agree. But I could never escape that Dragon Quest-shaped hole in my heart. The game seemed impossible to find, not to mention I no longer had the hardware to run it on. There was a brief period of time where I considered buying a DS, buying a used copy of Dragon Quest, praying it wasn't a scam, and then taking it apart and modifying the DS's hardware to allow me to screen record. And that's when I discovered the internet. I don't know why it took me that long to think about that. Dragon Quest IX was one of the most impactful pieces of media from my childhood, and as an adult I've been dying to know, does it hold up, or were my standards much lower than I remembered? I used to eat microwave pudding from kids' cuisine, so the answer to that question scared me. There are a few storylines in the game that have stuck with me. There is, of course, the Raging Contagion, a living plague that you have to seal away, and that I couldn't help but to attribute a Cajun accent to. The puppet that came to life and made me depressed at 10 years old, the time I learned what a mimic was, and getting to make my hair teal, and my white whale. So today, in honor of the holidays, I wanted to celebrate that childhood nostalgia and take a deep dive into one of my favorite video games. So go make some hot cocoa, go grab a blanket, and curl up for one of my favorite stories. This is a look at Dragon Quest IX: Sentinels of Starry Skies. There's nothing in this, We start where any good game begins: character creation. And while there are plenty of choices, I went with a recreation of the character that 10-year-old me made because she wanted teal hair so badly. And without a creative bone in my body, Katie. We were off. Now with wings and a halo, we find ourselves in a town called Angel Falls. I wonder why it's called that. Our mentor Akila is giving us our last lesson, almost like some sort of tutorial, to become the guardian of this town. As Celestians, it is our job to protect and help the mortals in exchange for their gratitude. This gratitude or benevolence is then offered to the god tree Yggdrasil, in hopes that it will bear fruit and grant us a path into the world of the Almighty. With that, we are now out on our own, entrusted with the care of this town and doing important tasks like cleaning horse shit, stealing from the townsfolk, and of course, slapping people. It is here that I decided to save my game. A lot of different game mechanics are tied to the church, like checking your experience points or divination, resurrecting characters, which I know I'll never use because I'm so good at video games, and saving or confession. It's a fun way to tie the game mechanics to the world, which is kind of funny because this game does not shy away from just telling you when to press B and eventually clippy pop-ups. We collect benevolence along the way and return to the observatory. Aquila and the head Celestrian, the Apis Major, think that Yggdrasil is close to bearing fruit, so that night we offer to it the benevolescence. Prompting an anime-style cutscene, and as we all know, a different art style signals that this is important. We see Yggdrasil bear fruit, which triggers an earthquake and causes us and the fruit to fall to the mortal world. And thus, the real game begins. We wake up back in Angel Falls. Oh, I get it now. Without our wings and halo. Luckily, our character is a professional good person, and as a professional good person, this means that our main motivation is doing good things. So why not help people? After Aaron with 2 inns, the kind local innkeeper gives us a room to stay, the mayor's idiot son recruits us to investigate a landslide that resulted from the mysterious earthquake and is currently blocking the path to the next city over. After a brief fight montage, we arrive at the scene and find the engine to the Starflight Express, the train that takes us from the mortal world to the observatory. We can still see it, so we must have a hint of Celestrian in us still. And the annoying pink ghost turd we'll get to later has her suspicions as well. As we arrive at the landslide, knights from the neighboring city of Stornway tell us that they already planned to clear it and that they're looking for a woman called Patty who is the innkeeper in their city. We don't know who the hell she is, so since that little journey was a waste of time, we might as well grind some. Leveling up in this game is a lot of fun and pretty complex. There are a lot of different weapons to choose from that each class can increase their skills in, and a special skill associated with the class itself. We start off as a minstrel, which is essentially a bard. 10-year-old me did not know what a minstrel was, so I asked my father, who got very embarrassed and told me to ask my mother when I was older. It'll hit ya. We can change our class later on, so for now I allocated my skill points to sword, since that's the most general weapon in the game. Back at Angel Falls, we tell the mayor about the landslide and the knights looking for Patty. Aaron with 2 inns was eavesdropping and asked us if we could go look for Patty at the Hexagon, the first dungeon. We arrive at the spooky scary Hexagon and find our way through with the help of a spirit. We find Patty trapped under a pile of rubble before we are attacked by the Hexagoon, our first boss encounter. Since it's the first boss, it's relatively easy, not to mention the hour of grinding from earlier. The boss has some special moves like destroying his own dungeon, but it's not long before we take him down. Patty thanks us and we meet her back in Angel Falls. Now it's our turn to eavesdrop on Aaron with 2 inns conversation as Patty tells her how she needs her help to save the inn in Stornway. Aaron's father was once the legendary innkeeper of Stornway, and as we all know, innkeeping is hereditary, so only she can help. Aaron refuses, and since that's none of our business, we head out. Just to find the spirit who helped us in the Hexagon, who reveals himself to be Aaron with 2 inns' father, Edwin with 2 inns. That's when we run into the annoying pink ghost turd from earlier, who unfortunately has the best theme song. After being unnecessarily combative, she introduces herself as Stella, the skipper of the Starflight Express. Stella is basically an excuse to break the fourth wall, which is why her presence is so annoying and jarring to me. She unlocks our battle record screen where we can keep track of all the monsters that we killed, items we collected, etc. She occasionally butts in with tutorials that they can't hide behind game design, and this is basically this game's equivalent of Clippy, just with a Cockney accent. In order for her to bring us back to the observatory, we have to prove that we are Celestrian by helping Edwin's soul be put to rest. This gives us an excuse to convince Aaron to save the inn that we've never been to before, and it was at this point when writing the script that I realized that their names had 2 inns because it would spell inn. So I guess running an inn isn't hereditary, it's just in the name. I hate myself too. Edwin isn't quite sure why he's stuck on the mortal plane, but hey, maybe it's something to do with the thing he buried behind the inn? What he had hidden was an award from his past life. We show this to Aaron, who is inspired to follow her innkeeping destiny, and Edwin's soul is free. As promised, we head towards the Starflight Express, but it's seen better days. And of course, Pink Ghost Turd Clippy can't operate it. But nothing happens is like Stella's MO. The only explanation, I guess, is to get more benevolence, so off we go again to the only other city we know about, Stornway. We arrive at Stornway just in time to catch up to Aaron, who is in the process of assembling the Invengers, or maybe her denizens? Sorry, the puns are rubbing off on me, I want them gone too. The inn at Stornway becomes our home base of sorts. There's a lot of resources for the player here, like an alchemy pot, which we use to make items and cool gear, a bank where we can keep our money because losing a battle means we lose half our funds. Good thing that won't happen. There's an online shop called the DQVC that no longer works, rest in peace Nintendo Wi-Fi, but it allowed users to shop for exclusive items and other DLC. And multiplayer access, where you can form a party with your friends.
Love to be a part of one someday.
But most importantly, we now have the ability to build our party. This is a pretty unique aspect of the game because not only do we get to make our main character, but we also get to make our entire party. This was the first classic style RPG I played, so it very much skewed my perception of RPGs in general. When I first played Dragon Age Inquisition, I was waiting for the part where I'd get to make my own party, but luckily it never came because then I'd miss out on some iconic party banter.
The wooden duck I found on my bed, was that you?
No, I'm not a wooden duck.
That is definitely a detractor for this game. Being able to make your whole party is a lot of fun, but your main character is already a silent protagonist, so having more blank slate characters to play as is a bit lonely. It's also a bit jarring because...
Wait a minute! Who are you?
They disappear at key moments and no one else knows that we're Celestians, so do they know why we're here? We really just summon them from the void. So the pros, full control of party composition, which allows you to balance the party however you want. You want 4 warriors, you got 4 warriors. You want 4 minstrels, as my dad would think, why would you want that? Cons, 1, it's kinda lonely. 2, it's a bit confusing story-wise, we just don't question their existence. And 3, now I have to come up with at least 3 more names. The party is now composed of Broku, a warrior, Priesta, a priest, and Aegon Targaryen, the 5th of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, the Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and the Protector of the Realm, a thief. The party all start at level 1 with basic equipment, so of course it's time for a shopping montage. And with the party decked out to the twos, we gotta level up, cause we sure don't look good. With that behind us, it's time to continue on to the main quest. We keep hearing about a mysterious figure that's been terrorizing Stornway called the White Knight. We meet with King Shot, we're going with Shot, who tells us that the White Knight is trying to kidnap his daughter, Princess Simona. He wants a brave hero to defeat the White Knight, but the princess is not having it. After she storms out of the throne room, we question why she wants to be kidnapped so badly, and she's got a hunch, guys, it's fine. Of course, Pink Ghost Turd Clippy decides to make an appearance to tell us, hey, this sounds like main quest material, so we go to where he's been waiting for the princess. Also, I found some armor along the way, so now I look like a teenage mutant ninja turtle. Night falls, Pink Ghost Turd Clippy runs her mouth, and the White Knight appears. He can obviously tell that we aren't the princess because we're clearly... So he attacks. Luckily, this White Knight fight is nothing with 3 new party members by my side, and we take him down. I should have named them after the turtles, man, fuck. Winning this fight unlocks his tragic backstory, where we learn that the princess that he is looking for is named Mona and just so happens to look like Simona, the princess of Stornway. The earthquake woke him up from a long slumber and he only had memories of his beloved Mona. He resigns himself to return to his home Brigadoon to look for her, but something tells me that the name is foreshadowing. Returning to Stornway, we tell the king that we defeated the White Knight and that it was all a misunderstanding and he didn't actually mean to kidnap his daughter. Yeah, the king doesn't buy this for a second and tells us we have to kill the White Knight once and for all, and Princess Simona Lot runs off to her room again, and as the designated mess cleaner, we run after her. She's heard of Brigadoon from a nursery rhyme her maid used to tell her, but she's too lazy to go find her, so we go to a small village where she retired to called Zere. Unfortunately, it is not Zere, it is far. We meet up with her and she sings us a little song. It looks like the White Knight was once called the Right Knight, and yeah, no, that is the lamest knight name I've ever heard. I'd be so upset. When leaving town, the White Knight appears, and it looks like the villagers are familiar with him and hint that a witch is looking for him. He doesn't remember where his town is, so we tell him the nursery rhyme to help him, which leads us to the Bloomingdale forest. Okay, who's gonna tell him that Mona is dead, guys? We get a really cheery intro into Brigadoon and set off into the dungeon to find Mona's corpse. In the heart of the dungeon, we see the White Knight confront Morag, the witch who put a spell on him for all those years to make him her slave. Her love slave. This game is for 10-year-olds, ew. We rush in to save him, and of course, her magic doesn't work on us because we're so cool. The fight with Morag is pretty easy, but she does have one unique attack to charm enemies, which is less annoying and more creepy as hell. But overall, it doesn't affect the party much, and we defeat the sex trafficker just in time for totally Princess Mona to show up and say that she forgives her Right Knight. The two dance the night away while we awkwardly stand there, and the knight's soul is free. He confesses that he knows that this is not his princess, but he is still grateful. With that, we return to Stornway, where we receive our reward. A whole room of treasure. Also, everyone is grateful now, so cool. We head back to the Starflight Express with our benevolescence in tow, but the train is still looking the same. So of course, the pink ghost turd Clippy tells us to head back out to make more people happy and get our Celestian powers back. We head over to the next town because why not, and luckily for us, they are in bad shape. Honestly, not sure what you'd expect from a name like Coffinwell. Well, they sure do be Coffinwell, because we find out that a mysterious plague has been running rampant through the town ever since the earthquake. And of course, after a brief shopping montage, we are on the case. As you may have noticed, this game really likes puns. Most of the monster names are puns, a lot of the town names are puns, and pretty much all the character names are puns. And if they're not puns, they're rhymes. Now, I love a good pun because deep down I know I was meant to be a dad, but this game definitely lost me at times. Like, the story told in Coffinwell is really quite tragic. Basically, the mayor is desperate to rid the town of the plague, but his son-in-law is the only doctor in town and is a total recluse. The doctor's wife, the mayor's daughter, is the only person he'll talk to, so she helps us contact him. Turns out he's been locking himself away to study the origins of the plague to put an end to it. He traces the plague back to an old shrine where we safely lead him through, battle the disease, and he seals it back up. We return back to town only to find that we were too late and that the doctor's wife has died. The whole thing is honestly very sad and pretty heavy for a children's game, but it's hard to feel the emotional weight when you have to spend your time talking to Dr. Fleming. Like phlegm. The doctor's wife is Katerina, which sounds fine until you realize that the spelling is with catarrh, aka excessive discharge or buildup of mucus in the nose or throat associated with inflammation of the mucous membrane. I didn't think I'd have to use my definition screen for this video, and I am not happy for what I had to use it for. I had to learn a new word. For Pete's sake, her hair is snot green. Let us not forget the shrine, aka the quarantomb. And of course, the boss, the raging contagion. At some point it just becomes disrespectful. It's a good quest. I really like the dungeon because it's just a grid maze. The boss fight is pretty fun. It's just the puns, dude. Sadly, the mayor's daughter dying doesn't exactly make people beam with joy, so there's no benevolence in sight. The mucus discharge can't rest knowing how sad her little Flemmy is, so we go around convincing him that people are grateful for his work and he needs to keep going. With the mucus discharge gone, everyone is happy. Hopefully happy enough for us to return to the observatory. We return to the Starflight Express and run into a mysterious spirit. Gee, I wonder if that'll be important later. Lucky for us, the Starflight Express is up and running and we can return home. Things aren't looking so good. But we have returned to save the day.
are?
I'm the guy.
The Apis Major is shocked at our return and our lack of wings in Halo. He advises us to pray to Yggdrasil in hopes of returning to our Celestian form. And we pray for so long and so hard that we fall asleep. Damn, that's what I should have told my grandma when I fell asleep in church. In our dreams, we see a vision of a powerful being who sought to destroy the mortals and their child who stopped them and assumed the form of Yggdrasil to protect the mortals. Yggdrasil does not restore our wings in Halo, but tells us that we are the chosen one and must collect the Fyggs that have fallen to the mortal realm and return them to the observatory for the mortal's salvation. Yggdrasil also gives us the ability to fast travel, so nice. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way that you cannot use that indoors. With Yggdrasil lighting the way, we return to the mortal realm with Stupid Pink Ghost Turd Clippy and start our quest for the Fyggs. There are 7 Fyggs for us to collect in total, and each one has an associated quest. This is definitely my favorite part of the game because this world really starts to come together and it feels whole. It's also the part that I had to replay the most as a kid, so it stands out in my memory. This is the first open world game I ever played, and for better or worse, you get so much freedom to explore and do quests however you like. The first Fygg is found at Alltrades Abbey. Alltrades is where you can change your class, aka your vocation. But the person who can change your vocation, Abbot Jack, isn't here. We investigate the abbey and learn that the abbot has run off with a shining fruit. If it wasn't obvious enough where the first Fygg is, Pink Ghost Turd Clippy pops in to tell us as much. We're told that the abbot likely ran off to the Tower of Trades where the original vocation-changing rites were held before the site became overrun by monsters. Perfect place for a dungeon. From my childhood memories, I knew this dungeon was hard for one reason. This was the dungeon where I learned what mimics were, and let me tell you, it was a lesson learned the hard way. And despite plenty emotional preparation, my team was not quite ready to handle him. And we experienced our first death. Rest in peace, Priesta. As you may remember, not all is lost when a character dies. We can take them to the church and have them resurrected. In the meantime, they just follow us around in this cute little sliding coffin. Now, the logical thing to do would have been to leave the dungeon and go resurrect Priesta, our only healer. But that would have ruined my immersion. In real life, you wouldn't leave your dungeon quest to go resurrect someone before saving the day, so why would I do that now? So of course we ventured on with Priesta in tow, and hey, she was there. In spirit. And you know what? We confronted Abbot Jack, he ate the fig to turn into a monster called the Master of None, and we beat his ass. Just kidding, he beat our asses, tenderized them, cooked them, and then we had our asses handed back to us. I thought Broku was gonna pull it out for us, but... So after experiencing our first full party wipeout, we marched back to the tower like Scott Pilgrim learning the power of self-respect, and beat him down. The Master of Na'un was Na'un more, and we collected our first Fygg. The abbot returns to the abbey, which allows us to change our vocation. This is a game mechanic that I didn't explore that much when I originally played the game because I hated the fact that changing my vocation meant that I was reset to level 1, so this time I decided to become a mage and grind my way back up to the top. Yeah, it was a bit rough, but we got there, in fashion, might I add. There is a lot of variety in the vocations. There are 12 in total. The first 6 you have access to right away: the mage, martial artist, minstrel, priest, thief, and warrior. Like any class system in a video game, each class has their own abilities, allowing you to balance out and make a well-rounded party. As you level up, the vocations have associated quests you can complete to unlock different abilities and gear. You can also unlock 6 more vocations via quests: the Armamentalist, Gladiator, Luminary, Paladin, Ranger, and Sage. I know basically nothing about these, but I did eventually decide to complete the Armamentalist quest and to change to that vocation. This involved a very annoying quest where I had to erect a wizard ward and then defeat 2 metal slimes. On paper, this looked fine, but it turned out that metal slimes are very rare monsters, flee battle constantly, and have very high defense. Was it worth it? I don't know, the metal slimes give a lot of experience points, so there's that. You may have noticed that the skill point allocation screen has a lot of options, and that's because as you level up and allocate skill points, as long as your current vocation has access to the skill, it carries over between vocations. The max level you can reach for a vocation is 99, but you can restart at level 1 for another vocation and grind your way back up 11 more times. This is just a drop in the hat of all the post-game content this game has, which we will discuss later on. We now head over to the small fishing town of Port Laughlin. There, some sort of ritual is being held by a girl named Jonah, a recent orphan who has gained an odd new ability. She summons the mighty Leviathan, who gives the townsfolk an abundance of fish. Seeing as this town's only trade is fishing, they don't have much more work to do anymore. The townsfolk are becoming lazy and more greedy. We overhear Jonah tell the mayor that she no longer wants to summon the Leviathan because it's wrong living like this. Okay, sweetie. These people are free to do whatever they like now. Their basic needs are being met. They could be scientists or make better houses. Eventually people get bored of not working, and if the god of the sea blesses you, it is disrespectful to turn the blessing away. Anyway, despite trying to talk some sense into Jonah, she still thinks summoning the Leviathan is wrong. The mayor, incensed by her decision, takes Jonah to the cliffs, which is always a good sign. We battle through a nautical-themed dungeon and approach the scene to find the mayor consoling Jonah and telling her that he'll tell the villagers that she lost the ability to summon the Leviathan, as long as she asks it to summon more valuable items. This provokes the Leviathan and triggers the boss fight that mars my childhood memories. Okay, this time around, this fight was way easier for me. Honestly, Captain Ahab should be taking notes. But 10-year-old me was kind of dumb. You see, this is the part of the game where all that freedom that I mentioned before kind of bit me in the ass. When I originally played this game, I arrived at Alltrades Abbey, heard that the abbot wasn't currently there, and I thought, oh, I must have to continue the story for him to show up. I mean, I wasn't wrong. But I immediately left the abbey and went to Port Laughlin because I didn't realize that was a quest. This is the part where a pink ghost turd clippy pop-up would have been helpful. I played that boss fight severely underleveled, but 10-year-old me was determined, so I just kept grinding until I was at the right level. I even looked at a friend's cheat book for the game, y'all remember those. Eventually, I did defeat the boss. But the story wasn't progressing, and I thought I had broken the game. So I restarted it and replayed it up to that point. Twice. One day, I ended up stumbling ass backwards into the abbey and realized there was in fact a quest there. It truly was my white whale, I mean. I began to question the meaning of my efforts and the literal fruitlessness of my mission. Anyway, turns out that the Leviathan is a vessel for the spirit of Jonah's father who is lost at sea. He found a fig and used it to wish for her protection. With that, the village ruined their free meal ticket, and we get fig number 2. And unlike my original adventure, this time the story progressed, and I was off to the mainland. We have a brief stop in the town of Dowrbridge, where we run into that mysterious spirit again. Wow, that's twice now. I wonder what that's about. We find this cool little hut a mason used to live at, decide that this mysterious tunnel is totally not plot-worthy, and learn a hard lesson about letting slimes multiply before we end up in Bloomingdale. The town of Bloomingdale is essentially owned by the Bloom family, which, as of now, only consists of the daughter Marion. Marion has recently gained a lot of friends, as she has been giving lavish gifts to all the townsfolk. With this gift-giving spree, we're sent to Marion in hopes that she'll gift us a ship so that we can continue our adventure. But she senses something different about us, prompting her to lock herself away, saying that we can't have Marion. Given the tantrum, we're advised to talk to Marion's former nanny, who tells us that she was a very sickly girl, but ever since she got better, she's acted like a different person. Seems figgy. Her nanny tells us that Marion has always had a sweet spot for the local toy maker who made her favorite toy as a child. He comes with us to calm her down, but upon returning to her room, we find that Marion has been kidnapped. As the toy maker runs away, we see a spirit that looks just like Marion. She leads us to a graveyard with 3 graves, one of which says, "In memory of my one true friend, may you rest in peace." The spirit reveals herself again and tells us that she is the real Marion and that the girl we saw before, the one that was kidnapped, was her doll, Marionette. Marion reveals that as the sickness worsens, she was unable to go outside and play with the other children, so Marionette became her only friend. One of the servants brought Marion a mysterious glowing fruit, hoping it would heal her. Rather than use it to cure her disease, she wishes that Marionette could come to life before she dies. Marionette comes to life, and Marion asks her to live the life she never could and make a lot of friends. Marionette digs a grave for her friend and follows her wishes. What the fuck? This is the quest that got me the most as a child. I remembered it very well going into it, but it still got to me. This is just so sad. This is the only quest where I feel weird taking the Fygg away, because she's just trying to live out her best friend's dying wishes. This is also the only quest where I think the puns are effective, because yes, Marionette is a pun on the name Marion, and she is her doll, but a marionette is also a puppet, and she's being puppeted to carry out Marion's life, and just... it has no business being this deep. Regardless, we have to rescue Marionette, so we find the amateur kidnappers in the aptly named The Bad Cave, just to find that Marionette doesn't really need rescuing. We find Marionette deeper in the dungeon. She thinks the kidnappers are her friends and tries to befriend a spider with a human skull for a face before it attacks her. We defeat the boss and find that Marionette is perfectly fine. Marion appears again and apologizes for projecting her wishes onto Marionette. She just wants her to be free. Marionette returns to the town to tell everyone that Marion will be going away, so that way they aren't alarmed by the fact that she's actually dead. We find her by Marion's grave, where she willingly gives up the Fygg. Her nanny drags her over to the room so she can be with Marion once she returns. Well, that's morbid. Marion and Marionette leaves us her ship, and with Fygg number 3 in tow, we venture out for number 4. We head out to the docks of Bloomingdale and are promptly warned to be prepared.
That sign can't stop me because I can't read.
So without taking a rest to restore my health and mana, we set sail. Pink Ghost Herd Clippy tells us that we can just press B to see the inside of the ship, and while jarring as hell, I take her advice. The boat is pretty expansive and has some locked doors and mysteries, which is fun, but the true fun part is the battles. The really hard battles. No, it's fine. I can just zoom out of here. Okay, I just have to get to shore and disembark. Oh no. Okay, let's just keep going. We can get to shore. Oh my god, oh. Okay. Broku and Aegon. Okay, the dream team.
Ooh, what you say? Oh, that you only meant well.
Well, 2 party wipes down and 5,000 or so coins lost, we return back to Bloomingdale and set off again. Where's my ship? I don't know where my ship is. Okay, here we go. Okay, this time we set out for real and we make our way to Gleeba. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for my time in Gleeba, so I will be providing an artistic representation. Honestly, this is kind of fitting, seeing as this is a point in the game where my memories get kind of fuzzy, and not because the game dropped off in quality or anything, but this is just a part I didn't have to play multiple times. Also, at this point, there's a clear pattern in the Fygg stories. Someone gets a Fygg, makes a wish, and the monkey's paw curls a finger. As the designated mess cleaner, we stop them and then we get the Fygg. But here in Gleeba, you find the town under a water shortage because the queen has allocated all to her bathing chamber. You also learn someone has gifted her a mysterious fruit. To seek an audience with the queen, you're told to find her pet lizard. Upon doing so, the queen is very grateful and hands the Fygg. Of course she fucking doesn't know. She decides to cut the fruit up and put it in her bath. We go to great lengths to stop her, even reliving her trauma of falling down a waterfall, but her dumb lizard eats it and becomes a real boy. So of course we defeat him and we get Fygg number 4, the queen learns the errors of her ways and tries to be a better queen, hooray. After traveling to the hottest place you'll ever see, it's time to travel to the coldest place you'll ever see, the Swinedimples Academy. Gee, I wonder how they thought of that name. Alright, I brought you all here to my kitchen because unfortunately this is the only place I had available to discuss what we should call this academy. Joe, what you got? I don't know, maybe fart melon? No, unfortunately I think that humor's a bit too mature for our audience. Joe, what you got? Oh, okay, so can't do Hogwarts, alright. Swine, okay. Well, okay. Warts. Warts are gross. Do kids even know what warts are? Okay, we'll go with Swinedimples. Joe, you beautiful bastard. That is the type of copyright infringement tiptoeing we need here at Dragon Quest Incorporated. At Swinedimples, the headmaster has hired a detective to investigate the mysterious disappearances of the students. This sounds awful figgy, so we say, yes, of course, we are the detective. We go undercover as a student to discover the plot afoot. We join a gang of troublemakers who lead us to discover that the disobedient students are being taken by the spirit of the founder of Swinedimples. We navigate through the dungeon and find the students in their own personal hell, a class that never ends. Seeing our disobedience, the founder transforms into a monster and attacks us. Then completely whoops our asses, oh my god. Ever determined, we grind to an absolute mind-numbing extent before returning once more. Only to get our asses handed to us again, but not before Broku lands the killing blow. With another fig in hand and the party severely injured, we journey onward. And with that, we head off to Batsureg. I'm not going to pronounce anything right for this one, okay. It was here that I realized that the reason I had so much trouble at Swinedimples was because the game intends you to go to other places, like Batsureg, first, made apparent by the order of the fast travel locations. Yet again, another downside to the freedom the game provides. Batsureg is a small nomadic village run by the chief, Batcan. His advisor, Satstral, is figgy right off the bat. The chief's son, Batsureg, is a known coward, and the chief's advisor doesn't think he's a fit successor. Turns out Batsureg and his gorilla friend think that Satstral is up to no good. The spirit of Batsureg's mother appears to ask us to aid her son in his battle against evil. She tells us to retrieve some magic grass from the ruins of an ancient village that will expose Sastral's true form. We do just that, and with some Class A acting from Batsureg and his gorilla friend, we expose her as... Larstrandnaras. It's just her name backwards. It's just her name backwards. Anyway, she's really ugly, so we kill her and retrieve the 6th golden fig. We leave Batsureg to Batsureg, the new chief in training. After being confused about where the 7th fig is, I remember that cool little tunnel that was totally not plot relevant at the time and head back there. At the mason's hut that I totally ignored, we learned that the man who lived there left his love to pursue masonry. He spent decades perfecting his craft before realizing that he was too old to travel back to his hometown of Zere. As such, he decides to create the entire town out of stone because, I guess, Zere Rocks. We travel through a dungeon to the town he created and find that it's protected by a stone golem. After absolutely crushing him because I'm overleveled for once, the mason appears to tell us that he ate the fig and wished for his creation to be protected. Cool. He gives us the last of the 7 figs and we head back to the observatory. Back on board the Starflight Express, we get a surprise visit from our mentor Aquila, who asks us to hand over the figs. We do, but he turns around and attacks us, prompting the most frustrating battle in the game. See, it's against Celestian law or whatever to attack a superior, so we just have to sit there while he kills us. He flies out of the window where he is greeted by his ally, Lieutenant Hootingham Gore of the Gittish Empire, riding a dragon called Barbarous. We learn more about the Gittish Empire later on because, as you can see, these are the real bad guys. He destroys the Starflight Express, and because Pink Ghost Turd Clippy is absolutely useless, we fall from the skies once again. We wake up in the xenophobic town of Wormwood Creek, and somehow our party has ended up here too. We're helped by the mayor's nephew, Wallace, and told to attend a town meeting that evening. The townsfolk could see a black dragon fly overhead when we fell from the Starflight Express, and as such, they just suspect we're working with the dragon and ask us to leave. Cool, I was gonna do that anyway. We follow Wallace to a nearby cave, and he tells us we should go to Upover to ask the dragon Grey Gnarl for help. To open the path there, we must go to a dungeon called the Bow Hole. Really? Okay, I know why it's called that, but really? The entrance to the Bow Hole is sealed, but luckily we run into the mysterious spirit from before. Third time's the charm. She tells us her name is Serena and asks us to retrieve an old necklace she hid in Wormwood Creek. Giving her the necklace unlocks her tragic backstory. Centuries ago, Serena lived in Wormwood Creek when their guardian turned up to the town injured. She nursed him back to health, and the two fell in love. But while he was recovering, the evil Gittish Empire came to collect tribute from the town and chose to take Serena to be one of the wives of the generals. Despite still being injured, he used his powers to stop the army from taking her. Unfortunately, the rest of the backstory is locked behind story progression, but she does unseal the bow hole for us. Cool. At the end of the bow hole lies a bow, protected by a guardian. After defeating him, we take the bow to unlock the way to the Upover, aptly named as it is up over there. Upover is a mountain town that serves the ancient dragon Grey Gnarl mostly by giving him alcohol. We're granted passage through the volcano dungeon to speak with him, but upon getting there he realizes that we aren't alcohol, so he attacks us. After defeating him, we tell him that we need help battling the dark dragon Barbarous, but he does not believe us as he had defeated him 3 centuries prior. We return to the village to see it being attacked by undead soldiers from the Gittish Empire, and we put a stop to it. But Lieutenant Hootingham Gore vows to return. With evidence of Barbarous's return, we once again ask Grey Gnarl for help. Hey! We offer him some alcohol to sweeten the deal, but of course, Barbarous chooses this time to make his return and attack Upover. Grey Gnarl gives us some cool dragon warrior armor, and we climb onto his back to take Barbarous down, triggering the best cutscene in the whole game. The two dragons take to the skies to fight, and while Grey Gnarl is powerful, Barbarous is channeling a tremendous amount of power from an unknown source. He greatly injures Grey Gnarl and fires a purple ball of energy at Upover to decimate the village. Grey Gnarl knows he must protect the village he loves, so he throws us from his back and we watch as he makes the ultimate sacrifice. Once again, we find ourselves plummeting down to the earth. Conveniently, we find ourselves in jail. That's right, we fell into jail. Honestly, I would have taken my chances with the ball. We meet yet another lieutenant of the Gittish Empire, Lieutenant Gorham Hogg, right before we are whisked off to our cell. The next day, we are helped by our cell neighbor Sterling. He shows us the ins and outs of the prison and explains the magical barriers that have been put up to protect the guard tower. Luckily for us, our friend Grey Gnarl gifted us a Gittish seal which allows us to pass through these barriers. This is when Sterling lets us in on his escape plan. The boys start a prison riot for a distraction, and we slip through the barriers up to the guard tower to shut them down, until I get my ass handed to me by some guards. Twice. So I quickly fast travel to Stornway to pick up my party at the end, then head back to the prison to shut down the barriers. But not before doing some quick leveling up, just in case this is the point of no return. And some treasure hunting. Just a bit. After my brief 6-hour diversion, we go back to the jail to free the prisoners and take down Lieutenant Gorham Hogg. We go down to the maximum security cells to find that the Gittish Empire has not only captured mortals, but Celestians as well. We free them and find out that they are draining their energy for power. As we make our escape, Barbarous makes an appearance yet again. Luckily for us, our friend Sterling is the real captain of the Starflight Express, and he summons it to scare off Barbarous. We all climb aboard, and that's when I realize that the pink ghost turd Clippy has been gone this entire chapter. Oh, how I miss the silence. With the proper captain in tow, we make our way back to the observatory. We finally make it back up to the observatory to tell the Apis Major our story, and we finally learn more about the Gittish Empire. Kind of. We learn that they were around centuries ago, sought to conquer the realm because they're evil and then were defeated. So we have learned nothing? The real shocking news is that the Fyggs have been returned to the observatory, and by none other than Aquila, making his betrayal even more confusing. But with the Fyggs all safely returned, the Apis Major decides that now is the time to journey to the realm of the Almighty. We arrive to find it relatively untouched, simply a world of floating rocks and rainbows just like my brain. That is, until we make it to the throne room to find it destroyed, and the throne empty. Upstairs we find a divine light and decide to offer the Fyggs up there. Upon doing so, we hear the voice of Yggdrasil, who summons us back to the observatory and appears in her personified form, Celestria. Celestria tells us how she came to be, harking back to the vision we saw at the beginning of the game. When the god we call the Almighty Zenus tried to destroy the mortals, she took the form of Yggdrasil to protect them from her father. The benevolence offered up to her showed the good in mortals' hearts, and one day she would bear fruit and her body would be freed. If the Almighty destroyed the mortals before then, she'd be lost in the tree forever. Zenus created the observatory and the Celestrians to serve, Celestria, but as of now, the Almighty is nowhere to be seen. Celestria tells us that the realm of the Almighty was damaged by a being who wishes to destroy the mortals. He is the one who brought back the Gittish Empire and is currently held in the heart of Gittingham Palace. Of course, it's up to us to go to the palace and put an end to him in the Gittish Empire once and for all. After some quick treasure hunting. Celestria shows us the path to Gittingham Palace through the Gittish Empire, which is now a desolate wasteland. We make our way into the palace and finally face off against Lieutenant Hootingham Gore. The rest of the palace is a maze of bosses and monsters. Next on our kill list is Lieutenant Goresby Purvis, who is guarding the entrance to the throne room. Can you guess what animal they are? After taking them down, we find Aquila in the throne room confronting the king of the Gittish Empire, King Godwin. Aquila offers him the Fyggs, but psych, they're fake. Aquila moves to attack him and is completely laid flat. Bro, just leave it to the experts, come on. We fight the king in a battle that can only be described as suspiciously easy. Of course, this can only mean one thing. Second form. This skeletal form takes much longer, but it's nothing compared to my hours of grinding. Aquila wakes up from his nap and tells us that he was playing as a double agent to try to free the captive Celestrians. How'd that work out now, babe? While explaining his dumb reasons for betrayal, the king decides to wake up from his nap and Aquila sacrifices himself to deflect the king's killing blow. Honestly, the most useful thing he's done since the tutorial. We make our way into the heart of the dungeon, a dungeon that has had 3 whole boss fights and is so large that it has its own priest spirit for us to save the game. Thank God. Your sacrifice has not gone to waste. In the basement, after we had been warned about an evil being who is chained up in the basement, we decide to unchain the first thing we see being held captive in the basement because the dude kinda looks like a Celestrian. The man says some truly disturbing things you'd only find in a Discord server before revealing himself as a former Celestrian known as Corvus. So of course, because he is a Celestrian, we can't attack him. As a former Celestrian, the man absolutely decks us and summons Barbarous to take him to the realm of the Almighty. With impeccable timing, Serena shows up again, hopefully to unlock the rest of her backstory that I'm sure would have been helpful to know 2 seconds ago. The Celestrian who she fell in love with was in fact Corvus. She tells us that after Corvus defeated the Gittish army that came to her town, more came to hunt him down. Her and her father convinced him to hide in a nearby cave because he was still injured. Serena led him there, but she knew he wouldn't turn his back from the town, so her father told her to give him a sleeping potion to force him to stay. Just as he began to doze off, Gittish soldiers arrived to take him away. This was all a deal that Serena's father made with the Empire so they would leave their village alone. The last thing Corvus heard before falling asleep was that Serena had tricked him. But unfortunately, it was all for nothing because the E in Empire stands for evil, and the soldiers decided to kill Serena and her father anyway. They locked Corvus away, and Serena has been looking for him in the afterlife ever since. We return to our regular programming to find that Sterling is here now, so he takes us to the observatory. Unfortunately for us, Corvus is a Celestrian and it is against the law to attack him, so there's simply nothing that can be done. #thoughts and prayers. This is the part of the game that loses me. Like, just change the rules, right? Celestria's awake, can't she just be like, oh yeah, this is totally an exception, here's your license to kill, or like, isn't there somebody above this man who can kill him? Also, he's literally fallen from grace, surely that gives us a valid excuse. Anyway, Celestria summons us to help us defeat Corvus. She says that all the benevolence that we've created since starting our journey is enough to create another fig. Perfect, now we can eat the fig and change the rules, right? What? What do you mean we can't overcome the law? Bitch, you are the law! So we return to the Starflight Express to let Sterling and the pink ghost turd Clippy know about the fig deal. Clippy begs us not to eat it because then we won't be able to see her anymore. Bitch, say less. Unfortunately, the effect is not instant and we'll still have to deal with her for a bit longer. Freshly mortal, we head to the realm of the Almighty to stop Corvus. The realm of the Almighty has been completely corrupted and turned into an attraction at Flesh Pit National Park. We battle through some familiar faces. First up is our old warden, Lieutenant Gorham Hogg. Boom. Dead. Next, Lieutenant Hootingham Gore. Boom. Dead. Next furry on the list, Lieutenant Goresby Purvis. Dead. This was all made too easy by a ring I got that replenishes Priestess mana whenever she steps, so I just had to do one of these before every boss fight.
The Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues.
We make it to the throne room of the Almighty and face off with Corvus. He is not pleased that I now have 00 status and takes his anger out on his face. In his blind rage, he flies off and we follow him into the center of the dungeon. We find that he has entered a fetal form, with Barbarous there to protect him. To avenge our lost friend Greynarl, we suddenly learn the ability to float and take Barbarous down. This gave Corvus enough time to transform into the not-so-jolly green giant, but luckily he kept his shorts on. The fight was hard. This man had every trick up his sleeve. He could even heal himself an ungodly amount. Poetically, we are the ones to give the final blow as Corvus comes to his knees. Serena, with her always impeccable timing, somehow makes it to the realm of the Almighty to save Corvus's soul and free the realm from his corruption. With that, the world was saved from evil and the mortals were granted salvation. The Celestians were all raptured to rejoin the realm of the Almighty and the observatory ceased to be. And then they dropped me off back on Earth, cause fuck me, I guess. Just couldn't change the goddamn rules, could you, Celestria? We say goodbye to our friend and ghost turd Clippy, and set off on our next adventure. So, how does this game hold up? Well, it's been over a decade and I can't shut up about it. Yeah, I make jokes about some of the mechanics, the puns, and ghost turd Clippy, but it's still such a fun game with a really engaging story, and there's so much content to this game. I spent hours finding materials to alchemize, reading books to learn more about the lore, fighting monsters to level up, going treasure hunting. Like, what more could you ask for? Cozy games have been gaining a lot of popularity recently, and I've seen a lot of frustration as the market has become more saturated, and while some of the games are just Stardew Valley remakes, there's definitely some games that are pushing the boundaries of what a cozy game is. But I think so much of this is that we just miss the handheld era of video games, and we're getting a new nostalgia for that. Dragon Age 9 is my cozy game, and it may not be a lot of other people's cozy game. I spent my Thanksgiving curled up on the couch playing this game, and I felt like I was in the 4th grade again. My love isn't just nostalgia-fueled. The credits rolled, and I just got a reminder of everything the game has to offer. Great characters, fun worlds, some mystery, and most importantly, teal hair. This may very well be the best game you've never played. I wanted to do something a little different for the holidays because I always get nostalgic around this time of year. I had a lot of fun playing this game, but oh my god, I did not know how long it was. I have over 50 hours of footage. One of the best things that come out of this game was that I have discovered the Dragon Quest fandom and I've fallen down a rabbit hole of Dragon Quest content. I can't wait to play the other games, and if you like classic style RPGs, this is definitely a game series for you. If you don't want to play a game that's been heinously spoiled for you, you're welcome. You have come to the right place. You may have noticed that this is Dragon Quest IX. There are 11 Dragon Quest games in the main series, not counting the remakes. Besides the monsters and some of the mechanics, the games are completely detached from one another. Most of the games even have companions, so if the silent parties aren't for you, there are other options out there. If you're watching this video and realizing, oh, she doesn't make only Dragon Quest content, why am I here? Firstly, hello. I hope this has been a fun stop for you on your journey through my channel. I cover a little bit of everything, and I'm certain that I'll cover something for you again. Secondly, I'm sure you're like me and want to find more Dragon Quest content. I've found a lot of fun channels, but there's a creator called Petchy who is my current favorite. Even if you're just learning about Dragon Quest now, I highly recommend his video on the history of Dragon Quest collaboration with McDonald's. Very interesting and makes me sad I never got the Ronald McDonald's wig for Dragon Quest IX. I hope everyone has a happy holidays and you're able to revisit some of those nostalgic favorites of yours. Cheers! Hey guys, it's Credits Katie. I am sorry it is so beige. I moved into a new place, the walls are beige, the curtains they left were beige, and then I bought a beige couch. Kinda looks like a generic Hallmark Christmas movie house, and I am trying to turn it into a generic Hallmark Christmas movie home. I have a lot of videos planned for the new year. I've already made my January video to help out with the moving because I am not done unpacking, so that will be out in a few weeks, so please subscribe to stick around for that. As always, you watching my videos means so much to me, and I hope you have a happy holidays.